On February 28, 2024, Texas executes Abner Cantu. He was convicted of the double murder of his cousin, James Mosqueda, and Mosqueda's girlfriend, Amy Kitchen, who were shot in their home, that occurred on November 4, 2000 in North Dallas, with evidence that his supporters would later deem to be questionable. Cantu was found guilty by a Collin County jury on October 16, 2001. Cantu maintained his innocence until he was executed at the Huntsville unit. Prosecutors pointed to bloody clothing found in Cantu's trash can, stolen jewelry, and the testimony from Cantu's fiancée, Amy Bocher, and her brother, Jeff Bocher, to build a case against the defendant. Jeff Calhoun, the jury foreman in the 2001 trial, said their testimony was the most compelling evidence supporting Cantu's guilt. A police officer who inspected Cantu's apartment shortly after the murder signed a sworn affidavit in 2020 that she did not believe that the bloody jeans were in the apartment when she went to check on him at the request of Cantu's concerned mother. The jeans were too big for Cantu, and tests did not find conclusive evidence of his DNA on the pants. All of which, Cantu's legal team said, indicates that he was framed for the crime. The bodies of Mosqueda and Kitchen were found on November 4, 2000, with multiple gunshot wounds, but police did not find a weapon in their home. Police said items were missing from the home, including Mosqueda's Rolex watch and Kitchen's engagement ring. The car belonging to Mosqueda was found parked outside the apartment Cantu shared with Bocher just over a mile from the crime scene. According to police records, jeans and socks with drops of blood from the victims were found in Cantu's kitchen trash can. Bocher told police that Cantu had committed the murders. Abner Cantu and Bocher shared an apartment not far from the victims, James Mosqueda and Amy Kitchen's. Mosqueda was Ivan Cantu's cousin. On the night of the offense, Ivan Cantu told Bocher he was going to Mosqueda and Kitchen's house to kill them, but Bocher did not believe him. Ivan Cantu spoke with Mosqueda on the phone before leaving at about 11:30 p.m. While Ivan Cantu was gone, Bocher talked on the phone with her stepfather, whom she and Ivan Cantu were going to visit in Arkansas the next day. When Ivan Cantu returned around 12:20 a.m., his face was swollen and he had what looked like blood on his jeans and in his hair. He told Bocher that it wasn't pretty and began unloading his gun, complaining that it had jammed on him. He had the victim's identification and car keys. Bocher testified that she threw Ivan Cantu's bloody jeans in the kitchen trash can. After he cleaned up, Ivan Cantu made Bocher return with him to the victim's house to see what he had done. They drove Kitchen's Mercedes. Bocher testified that she could see the victims' bodies through the doorway to the master bedroom. They parked the Mercedes in the garage and left in Mosqueda's Corvette. Abner Cantu gave Bocher a diamond engagement ring that had belonged to Kitchen's. Bocher did not attempt to elude Ivan Cantu, or turn him in after learning of the murders. She testified that she was terrified of Abner Cantu, and thought he might kill her. Ivan Cantu had shot at Bocher with a pistol the night before the murders and slammed the door on her hand as she tried to leave. There is no evidence that Bocher intended to promote the offense or assisted in its commission. Viewing the murder scene after the fact, failing to report the offense, assisting Ivan Cantu in returning Kitchen's car to the scene, and failing to extricate herself from Ivan Cantu after becoming aware that he had committed the offense are not acts that render Bocher an accomplice to the offense. Because she was not an accomplice, her testimony needed no corroboration. But Cantu's legal team claims to have found evidence that casts doubt on his guilt. An agent who went with Cantu's mother to carry out a preliminary check of his home shortly after the murder stated there were no bloody clothes in the trash can. Bocher had said the bloody pants were Cantu's, but they were size 34 by 32 and Cantu claims that his size was 30 by 30. Cantu's legal team learned in 2019 that officers recovered the Rolex watch after finding it in Mosqueda's home and returned it to his family shortly after the murder. Amy Bocher also testified that Cantu threw a Rolex watch belonging to Mosqueda out of a car window as the couple was driving to downtown Dallas to a club shortly after the murders. In recent state court filings, Cantu's legal team argued that the Collin County District Attorney's Office knowingly withheld this evidence, suggesting that Amy Bocher was willing to give false evidence under oath to assist the state's case. After Amy Bocher died in 2021, her brother called investigators with the Collin County District Attorney Office to recant parts of his testimony. Jeff Bocher said he lied about Cantu recruiting him to clean up after the murders to protect his sister. He admitted to being a frequent drug user at the time of the trial and that his testimony wasn't reliable. Bocher also claimed that on the night of the murders she saw Cantu wearing Mosqueda's Rolex, but in 2019, Cantu's father, Abner Cantu, said he discovered that the brother of Mosqueda's fiancée took that watch from the crime scene and handed it over to the police, who had returned it to Mosqueda's mother. Bocher further testified that, on the night of the crime, Cantu asked her to marry him and gave her a diamond ring that she later learned was the one Mosqueda gave to his fiancée. But witnesses found by Cantu's lawyer say that Bocher already had a ring a week before the crime. Amy Bocher's testimony about the offense wholly incriminated Abner Cantu in the murders and robbery, and her version was corroborated by other evidence. In addition, as discussed in the section of this opinion relating to the factual sufficiency of the evidence to support guilt, there was a great deal of circumstantial evidence, obtained from sources other than the searches in question, that linked Abner Cantu to the crime. Finally, both Amy and Jeff Bocher testified about Abner Cantu expressed desire to kill the victims. As for the bullet recovered from the wall in Abner Cantu's apartment, the existence of that bullet did nothing to link Abner Cantu to the crime. While the recovery of the bullet corroborates Bocher's testimony that Abner Cantu shot at her with a pistol and slammed her hand in the door, other evidence corroborated her version of these events, such as a neighbor who testified to hearing a loud sound like a gun, and a witness who testified about the injuries to Bocher's hand. We find beyond a reasonable doubt that the evidence did not contribute to Abner Cantu's conviction or punishment. Despite the pleas of Cantu's advocates, who included reality star and entrepreneur Kim Kardashian and the actor Martin Sheen, his staunchest supporter, however, was perhaps his mother, Sylvia Cantu, remained convinced of her son's innocence. On February 28, 2024, at 6:26 p.m., Cantu was injected with a lethal dose of pentobarbital. He died 21 minutes later. In his final statement, Cantu staunchly maintained his innocence. Addressing Mosqueda and Kitchen's families, Cantu said if he had known who their killer was he would have immediately come forward with that information. I want you all to know that I don't think that this situation here will bring you closure, Cantu said. Before he was killed, he thanked the many people who helped him with his case including his lawyer Jenna Bunn and private investigator Matt Duff, who produced a podcast about Cantu's case that questioned elements of his original trial. Most people say, executing Abner Cantu, when there are numerous concerns about the veracity of the case against him, is utterly irresponsible. If we are to continue executing individuals, we must be absolutely certain that the right person is behind bars, and in Abner Cantu's case, there is too much doubt. In Cantu's case, there is evidence that the state star witness committed multiple counts of perjury. The prosecution and investigating officers improperly coached witnesses and withheld evidence from the defense. Cantu believes he received a raw deal from his own defense counsel, as well. Against Cantu's wishes, the defense did not hire a private investigator, call any witnesses to dispute the state's case, or present any evidence on Cantu's behalf, and conceded Cantu's guilt in the closing arguments. Ivan Abner Cantu was on death row since November 8, 2001, and was 50 years at the time of his execution. Thank you for watching Death Row.